Imagine seeing a doll that moves at night, its hair growing on its own, even its mouth opening and closing in photographs. This isn't a movie scene. It's a real doll, still displayed in a temple, and people believe it's cursed. Its name is Okiku. For over a century, this story has haunted priests and visitors alike in Japan. But the real question is it just a legend, or does a spirit truly live inside? Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe and like this video if you love chilling true horror stories. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Imagine a doll, but not an ordinary doll. A doll whose hair grows on its own. A doll believed to still carry the soul within it. In Japan, this doll's name sends shivers down everyone's spine. Okiku. This is not just an urban legend. It's a story that has been told for more than 100 years. A doll still displayed in a temple, terrifying those who visit. Okiku's story first appeared in Japan at the beginning of the 1900s. Even today, it survives as a cultural phenomenon. But be careful in telling this story. I will not mention the exaggerated versions or those stuffed with Western horror cliches. Not about little girls with green eyes, not about bloody massacre scenes, because most of those are later embellishments. What I'll tell you is based on the earliest versions told in Japan, a simpler, but far more chilling, true Okiku story. The story begins in 1918. In the northern Japanese city of Sapporo, a large fair was held. A 17-year-old boy named Akichi Suzuki, wandering among the crowd, noticed a doll that caught his attention. The doll wore a traditional kimono. Its hair was cut in the short bob style called okappa in Japan. Today it may look ordinary to us, but at that time, this haircut was a very popular style among little girls. Akichi bought this doll for his 3-year-old sister, Kiki. When he gave her the gift, the little girl was enchanted. From that day on, the doll became her closest friend. During the day in her games, at night in her sleep. It was always by her side. She almost never let go of her doll. But happiness was short. The following year, little Kikuko fell gravely ill. Some say it was pneumonia, others say yellow fever. Whatever it was, her tiny body could not withstand the sickness. Her family watched helplessly as their little girl withered away before their eyes. And at last, 4-year-old Kikuko passed away. Here I must tell you about a tradition unique to Japan. When a loved one dies, before cremation, you place small keepsakes into the coffin. These are called fukusohin. In other words, grave goods that accompany the deceased to the other side. Sometimes it might be a letter, sometimes a favorite food, sometimes an item that person cherished, a fisherman's hat, a child's toy car. For Kikuko, the object was obvious, her beloved doll. But here lies the detail that makes this story eerie. The doll was not placed in the coffin with her. Perhaps her grieving family forgot. Perhaps the crematorium refused because of the doll's materials. Whatever the reason, the doll was not sent with Kikuko after the funeral. The family kept Kikuko's ashes in the butsudan, the household altar, and next to them they placed her favorite doll. That way, it was as if the little girl's spirit was still beside her toy. The family prayed daily in front of the altar. But a few months later, everyone began to notice something strange. The doll's hair had started to grow. The short bob cut that had once ended at ear level slowly reached her shoulders. Over time, it grew all the way down to her waist. The family believed there was only one explanation for this supernatural phenomenon. Kikuko's soul was now living inside the doll. Years passed. Japan entered a turbulent era. By 1938, the Second World War was at its doorstep. Akichi was conscripted into the army, and the family was forced to move away from Sapporo. But they could not take everything with them, especially not Kikuko's ashes and the doll that was whispered to be cursed. Instead, they entrusted them to Mannen-ji Temple in Hokkaido. The temple monks accepted this responsibility. There, among other sacred relics, they carefully tended to the little girl's ashes and her doll. Years later, when the family returned to visit the temple, what they saw horrified them. The monks explained that the doll's hair was still growing, and indeed, it was true. When it had first arrived, the hair was shoulder length, but now it had grown down to its waist. Moreover, the monks had ceremonially cut the doll's hairbutt before long. It grew back again. The family then begged the monks to continue caring for the doll. They agreed. Thus, the doll known as Okiku became a sacred relic at the temple. If you visit Mannen-ji Temple today, you will still find Okiku there, and her hair still grows. Each year, during a special ceremony, the monks demonstrate this phenomenon. When the doll's hair reaches her waist, it is carefully trimmed. Then, once again, and again, it grows back. Some visitors have claimed that in photographs, the doll's mouth appears to open and close. A few even said they saw something that looked like teeth. Okiku's legend did not remain confined to the family. In the 1960s, an article published in a magazine brought the doll to the attention of all Japan. The author was Koike Takahiko, a Kaiden Kenkaika, researcher and writer of ghost stories and paranormal events. But his version of the story differed slightly from the earliest one. This time, the doll was not bought by a brother, but by a father named Tsukishi. He had given it to his little daughter Kyoko. Just like in the original version, the child grew deeply attached to her doll. And tragically, she too fell ill and died. After her death, Tsukushichi was forced to leave in search of work. He went to the coal mines in Karafuto, a region near the Russian border. He was far from his village, and it was impossible for him to bring along his daughter's ashes or the doll. So he entrusted them to Mannen-ji Temple for safekeeping. The monks placed the doll in a box and stored it in a sacred place. Years passed. One night, a monk at the temple had a chilling dream. In it, Tsukushichi appeared before him, soaked to the bone, as if he had been caught in a downpour or had just emerged from the sea. And he spoke only one sentence: "Cut my daughter's hair." The monk took the dream as a warning, but there was no hair to cut tonally. The doll remained. Curious, he opened the box and froze. The doll's hair had grown, longer than it had ever been before. Not long after, news arrived that Tsukushichi had died. Some said it was a shipwreck. Others claimed a storm had taken him. On the night he had appeared in the monk's dream, he was already dead. And perhaps this was the last message he left behind in the world. Just like in the first version, Okiku's hair continued to grow. The monks kept caring for this mysterious relic. By the 1960s, when the article was published, people all across Japan were talking about the story. Okiku was no longer just a village mystery, it had become a national ghost legend. And as the years passed, new details, new rumors were added. But one truth never changed. Okiku still remains in Mannen-ji Temple, and her hair still grows on its own. The ever-growing hair of the Okiku doll fascinated people for decades. But of course, scientists and folklorists insisted that the phenomenon must have a natural, not supernatural, explanation. One theory, proposed in the 1970s, suggested that old Japanese dolls were often made with real human hair. But the strands weren't individually sewn. They were folded in half, and the bent ends glued into tiny openings on the scalp. Over time, as the glue loosened, the folded portion of the hair could slip, making the strands appear longer. In other words, the hair wasn't truly growing, it was sliding and creating the illusion of growth. At first glance, this explanation sounds reasonable, doesn't it? But there are troubling parts. First, the hair only grows longer. If the glue were loosening, some strands should appear shorter as they slipped out. But that never happens. Second, the sheer length of the hair. Today, in photos of Okiku at the temple, you can see that her hair falls all the way to her waist. For hair that started as a short bob cut, this growth seems far too extreme to be explained simply by slippage. Third, the monks trimmed the hair ceremonially on a regular basis. Each year, they actually hold newly grown hair in their hands. That weakens the possibility of it being just a visual illusion. And beyond that, new rumors have surfaced in recent years. Some visitors claimed the doll's mouth appeared to open and close in photographs. In certain shots, they even said they saw something resembling teeth. The monks strictly forbid any scientific investigation. To them, this doll is not merely an artifact or a legend, it houses a spirit. Showing respect to Okiku and not angering her is essential, and so, despite all the theories, Okiku remains one of the most mysterious beings in all of Japan. So what do you think? Is Okiku just a clever illusion, or a vessel for a restless spirit? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video, because there are many more terrifying legends waiting to be told.